Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. This is the EV portion. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner, and I'm alive.
Yes, and we have a very special guest with us today, Jerry Kroll, the CEO of Solo, Electromechanica Solo.
Hi, guys. Good to be back.
Yeah.
Good to have you back.
Jerry's been on our show once before. The images behind us here are not AI generated. These are real third-generation Solo vehicles. And so anyway, we have a number of questions for Jerry. If you have any questions, please chime in. Feel free to ask, and we'll do our best to entertain all of the questions that come in. So first question that I have for you, Jerry, is the single commuter concept certainly makes sense. It's earth-friendly. But what was the inspiration to launch a car company around this concept?
The inspiration on it and the mission of Electromechanica is to close the last gas station. That's really what it is. And having had met the founders of Tesla back in 2005, when I was developing the Solo in Mountain View, and seeing where that went to normalize electric vehicles, the next step was to say, okay, we've got all these beautiful sedans that are electric, that the performance surpasses anything that an internal combustion could do. What can we do for the 80% plus people who are driving by themselves in a car? Because congestion is a problem. They just introduced congestion fees in New York last week.
Right.
And there's a reason for that, because it doesn't matter if it's combustion or electric. There's only so much space in cities as we're going along. And that's where you come up with the idea of an iPhone for the road. You just stand out in front of your street or on the highways you're driving, count how many cars have one person in them. It's more than 80%. If you can come up with a car for 80% of the people that removes the cost of buying the car, renting the car, and all that, that's the Solo's mission. A mission-specific vehicle, not just for commuting, but also for delivery package, small delivery packages, food, pharmaceuticals, things like that, papers, documents, driving around with a smaller footprint, parking with a smaller footprint. The Solo is a product that will be as ubiquitous as an iPhone.
Fascinating. And, you know, you mentioned the three founders of Tesla. We should probably give those names out.
Sure. I think there's more than three right now. And if you don't mention all of them, apparently there's litigation involved.
Of course, we're talking about before Elon and 2005?
Before I met Elon, no, I knew Mark Tarpening and Martin Eberhard. And we just had, like, looking back at it, it's almost surreal, right? It's like having breakfast with the Beatles before the Beatles were the Beatles. You know, we were just having scrambled eggs and pancakes and watching these guys draw motors on napkins. And it's like, did that really happen? No, it really did happen.
Cool.
And driving around now, 20 years later, and seeing, you know, every sixth or seventh car is a Tesla out there taking another internal combustion car off the road. That was really the mission. And as we see more and more cars now coming from companies like Kia, General Motors, Ford, et cetera, electric, you're starting to cut down the amount of traffic at gas stations, which are sitting on valuable properties.
Right.
And those are shutting down and turning into buildings or whatever, which they should be. You know, you don't make that much money on cups of coffee and chips on a $40 million property. And as that pulls back, more and more people are saying, it's more convenient to plug into a plug at home than it is to drive 20 or 30 miles out of my way to pay $5,000 a year for gas. Apart from the pollution that you're causing, you know, and everybody contributes a little bit with an internal combustion thing, $5,000. I don't think you can spend $5,000 a year on electricity on an electric car. I don't think you can. It would be...
You have to drive a semi, I think, one of those big ones.
Yeah.
24 hours a day. So the cost benefit just in the power is there, and then you get the maintenance and all that stuff too. Yeah. But the Solo is for those people, young people getting their first car for $18,000, other people saying, I got the Model X or the Model Y. But when I go to work, I just jump into my Solo because I know it's going to be a quick, easy trip.
Sure.
The restaurant. I know this is off topic, but talking to Martin Eberhardt. There was a restaurant, I think it was called Bucks, where they
right.
always had. Is that the one that you were at?
Bucks
was
is
a
a
legend.
legend. Yeah, there are books that they published on that too, and it's in Woodside, California, Silicon Valley. And you can go there early in the morning, and you'll see all the entrepreneurs, the young entrepreneurs, standing outside before the restaurant opens with their laptops and their projects inside, waiting for the wealthy people to show up and have breakfast with them and hear what their pitch is and AI or whatever they're doing. And kind of decide whether or not they should fund these projects. So it's a lovely place. Some of the most amazing companies in the world have started there, and just to be part of that, I'm just going to use the word eclectic. It is eclectic. If you're in the Woodside, California area, go into Bucks and have a look around. It really is a marvelous place.
Fascinating. So you were there making history. So the Solo's unique three-wheel design presented some unconventional engineering challenges. What were the most unexpected obstacles you encountered when translating the initial concept into production-ready vehicles?
Yeah, it's one of those things where when you own a Solo, and I'm speaking to all the Solo owners, and you drive it, you just completely forget it has one wheel on the back.
That's true.
You're driving it around. It drives like a conventional vehicle. It has 25% less weight than a four-wheeler because you're literally adding another 33% by adding
Right.
a fourth wheel. A tripod is the most stable platform you can get, which is why cameras are on tripods and not four legs, because that gets wobbly then. And it really wasn't as much challenge as you would have been expecting, something to pop up as you're driving around. And I've actually driven the Solo on racetracks quite a bit at some pretty unconventional speeds, and it's a delightful thing. You've got semi-trailers that have 6 times as many wheels. It's an 18-wheeler, and they flip over all the time.
Yes.
And they've got 6 times as many. Why is that? It's because of the height of the weight, right? So if you have a low CG, you're planted. 3 wheels, you're planted as well too. So it's a very, very stable platform. Optimizing the Solo for range, comfort, the experience and all that. This is an ongoing process which you're involved in doing now as well too, to make sure that you get as much range as possible per kilowatt hour in the vehicle, the comfort, the sound, putting foam in the wheels, much like Tesla does, because tire noise isn't a problem with Harley Davidsons and internal combustion cars, right?
Good point.
But when you've got a completely silent electric car, if there's a fly in the car, it'll irritate you because you can hear it. So a little buzzing, you put styrofoam, or not styrofoam, but foam rubber in the wheels, and that lowers the sound too. You've got almost a perfectly quiet environment. These are all little changes that add to the consumer or the owner experience.
Now, you built these first Solos in Vancouver, correct? Hand built, is that right?
Yeah, the first 60 or 70 were built in Vancouver's the Gen 1 cars, hand built.
So what did you learn during that prototype phase? Anything notable come out of that?
Yeah, I mean, as part of it, as we were developing the car, and any car is like that. You look at the first Corvettes, and as a young person, I was a big Corvette fan. You see the first Corvettes, the first 20 or 30 Corvettes that they came out. I mean, they all looked slightly different. And a car kind of tells you when it's ready for production. You're just going, we should do this, we should do that. And sooner or later, you just go, okay, this is a production-ready vehicle. And that's when you say, okay, let's get the tools and the dies set up. This is the one that can go. And that's a Gen 3 vehicle, primarily for the United States, where we had to put the center light on it because it registers as a motorcycle.
Yeah.
So you have to put the center light on it. And you're going from, okay, we have to do something strange to making it look like a diamond on the hood, which is actually a benefit. People love that. In Europe, that has to come off again because they don't like that in
Really?
Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's part of the process. So it's an evolution, much like learning how to play the piano or guitar and all that. You keep going, all of a sudden you're going, yeah, you know what? I think I have our sound, right? And then away you go with the production.
Fascinating. We have some people that are chiming in now. YouTube, True Tech asks, bring it back. Keep making them. There you go. That's a message to you.
No. Of course we will, and we
Hang in there.
did have it for the ones that are being made now. We'll get into the politics of importing from China, but the ones that are being prepared in Europe will be called the Solo GT. So there's a differentiation there. Largely the same, but with improvements, right,
Okay.
in it. But yeah, brace yourself. We're looking for Q4 this year.
Q4. Okay.
Now, speaking of China, Electromechanica had originally partnered with China in Zhongzhen, correct? For your manufacturing.
That's right. Yeah.
And then what led to China? Why that decision as opposed to somewhere else for your early solos?
Yeah, that's one of those things like running into Martin Eberhardt and Mark Tarpfening, where you're going, how did that happen? My partner in the race team was an investment banker in California, and he says, I know these two guys. They're doing something. Let's go have breakfast with these guys. And going,
Right.
what's their company called? It's called Tesla. I'm going, well, that's kind of weird. Let's go meet these guys, right? And they were pretty lost at the time. So I go to this Christmas dinner in Vancouver, and a lady who represented the float plane airline in Vancouver. Have you guys been to Vancouver yet?
Yes,
I have not.
There's a float plane airline called Harbor Air, and it goes out of downtown Vancouver. It's the most James Bond thing you can do in Vancouver. You get into a float plane, you take off over the Lions Gate, which is like the Golden Gate Bridge, over that, and you go to Victoria, right downtown, and you can wander around. It's the most James Bond thing you can do. So this lady comes up and says, her company would like to help build the Solos. I'm going, what are you talking about? You're an airline. She says, no. We're actually also the owners of the biggest motorcycle company in China, in Chongqing, which is the biggest city in China. I'm going, well, that's remarkable. So they came and they had a look at how we were building. I went over there as well, too. 18,000 employees. It's a city within Chongqing. This is the Songshen factory. And Joanne, Mr. Zhuo, just the nicest guy, Mr. and Mrs. Swell. It's a family operation. And the way to appreciate how nice he is he once explained to me that his sole job as the owner of the company is to find employment for his employees.
Gotcha. Okay.
Think about that. Like, how does that differ from Western CEOs
Corporate America.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, our job is to get returns for the shareholder. No, his sole job is to do that. And you just go, oh my goodness.
Wow.
How charming is that? And the employees love the Solo. They built them there. They had set up the assembly line in his first assembly line that he had. And I mean, this is a big complex. So assembly line number 1 was converted to the Solo assembly line.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So one of the questions I had, looking back at the early development phase, what would you do differently if you were starting the process today with the knowledge you now have? Which, of course, is exactly what you're doing, and we'll get into that in Spain.
Yeah, so the evolution of the car, we really don't need to change much in it at all. It's a perfect, fun experience. It does everything I ever dreamt of it. And everybody who has a Solo and is driving around and they're doing 10,000 miles trouble-free, incident-free, and just loving the cars, taking it to car shows and winning awards and things like that, they know what I'm talking about. Every time you get into it, people are waving, they got their phones out and filming you and all that. So it has evolved to just a beautiful vehicle. Have the batteries improved? Yes. Have the prices gone down? Motors, components, little things like that tend to improve, just like iPhones will improve, right? So you do that. But the product itself has always evolved in the right direction. It's always felt better. And it's at the point right now where the vehicles that we're going to be building in Barcelona, Spain, instead of China, are the same car, but with these little evolutions in the batteries and the motors. Yeah, so it really has gone. We haven't taken too many missteps.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Now, the Solo third generation had a power issue where there was a loss of power while they were driving. That's publicly known, and the company ended up being forced to recall all of those Solos. The decision was made to crush them, though, rather than to end up trying to repair them. What were some of the key factors that led to that decision to crush those Solo vehicles rather than to try to continue to attempt to seek a solution to the power loss symptoms that your customers were saying.
Yeah, so I'll back up on that a little bit. The company was not forced to recall them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good to
the
know.
company decided, it was a voluntary recall by the executives of the company at the time,
Okay.
and I was on the board of directors of that, voting to say we can fix this, right?
Right.
We don't need to recall these things. This is a fix, and we have some here that have gone through the process.
Yes.
Relatively minor thing, but part of the evolution of the car, and I know Pete and I have talked about this before, his childhood trauma of watching the EV1s being crushed.
Yes.
For whatever reason, those guys did it, and we still don't really know. As the first shipment of Solos was coming in from China into Long Beach, California, at the exact same time they imposed a 25% import tariff on all Chinese EVs. And that money had to be paid up front as the cars landed. So part of the reason for the executive, and it was from my perspective, the wrong decision, was to crush the cars, which at that point meant when you crush the car, you get that 25% cash back from the government.
Okay.
So that's what it was. So it wasn't a forced issue. The cars are good. The people who've kept them love them. The people who returned their cars regret that and miss
Yes.
them and are asking us, please make them again. I want my car back. And we will get to you for sure. No, that's why we're here. But it was a little bit like the EV1. And I'm proud to say that we have way more Solos on the road than there are EV1s on the road. So besides the trauma of seeing these perfectly wonderful vehicles being destroyed for a political reason, we still have all these lovely owners with these lovely cars on the road, learning about them, giving us input, saying, oh, the steering wheel should be higher, maybe move it around a little bit, or, better sound system up higher, or little nuances that can improve the product as we go along. We have that. Whereas I've never seen an EV1 on the road.
Mm-hmm.
I see Solos on the road all the time, and that's heartening.
It is, and I'm not. We've had some experience now with Solo customers here at Gruber Motors. I'm not sure that there is anybody more passionate about their cars than the Solo owners, and that to us is saying a lot because the Roadster community is an incredibly passionate community.
Very close knit, yeah. My first exposure to Solo was actually at Fashion Square Mall. And I'm going to bring up a picture here that we can pop up, and there we go.
Which is here in Phoenix.
In Phoenix.
Scottsdale.
Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Brilliant marketing move. I don't know who it was pioneered by, but Elon certainly took advantage of it, as did the later companies like Lucid. People don't go to dealerships on a weekend to go look at cars unless they're going to buy something. But where do they go? They go to malls.
Yeah.
And if they're exposed to a vehicle at the mall, it creates a lot of activity. And this is what was at Fashion Square. Down on the lower floor, there were usually people milling about the car, asking all kinds of questions. So that was really my first exposure to the three-wheeler Solo vehicle. Very pleased that they were being made here in Arizona. And the next exposure I had was actually at the plant here in Mesa, Arizona. And a beautiful building, $55 million building, 312,000 square feet, I think, massive. And funded partially by the state of Arizona, who badly wanted to have EV activity in the state. Very supportive of Lucid, Nikola, Local Motors at the time, at one point, and of course, your company. Now, the next exposure that I had was I got called.
And Mesa is just a lovely city, and the support that we had from the state of Arizona and Mesa is greatly appreciated. The building is absolutely spectacular, and and that's why I'm here today. And I owe our introduction to meeting Gruber here to being involved with Mesa, Arizona.
It was actually a local auctioneer that contacted us a year or so ago and said, hey, are you interested in bidding on some assets from an EV company? And I thought, well, Local Motors had just gone under, and we bought some stuff from them.
Right.
And I said, who is this other company? And they said, well, Electromechanica Solo. I thought, you're kidding. The guy's in the malls. Great concept, great car. What happened, right? So we went out, we three times actually. We bought a number of things from the plant there. This is what was out and back when we were picking up at one point. And these look like partially assembled vehicles. Maybe they were being disassembled.
Disassembled, yeah.
Yeah. And then inside the building, what we saw was just a wide range of beautiful brand new cars.
Yeah.
There we go. This is the one where actually Will was standing in the center.
Yeah.
And
every one of those cars had a price on its head from the for the rebate from the tariffs. And
Okay.
that's the sad part. Like every one of those said, okay, you can sell them, you can deliver them to customers, or you can just get rid of them and get money back. That's painful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just when politics takes a bad turn. Little bit of protectionism for the internal combustion industry in America and all that, and you could not imagine worse timing for that happening. Yeah, but the assets that were being liquidated there were wheels and batteries from that product. The company itself continues on and was merged in with XOS, which I know the owners and the product over there. It's a truck company building vehicles for Federal Express, things like that for the Penske. Beautiful trucks, great vehicles. And so the company that was doing that has merged with that and carried on with those vehicles there. Beautiful trucks.
They are. They're. I've seen pictures of them, not seen them live yet. They're the medium size, your medium size
Vans,
trucks. Yeah. So like a 20-foot moving van size, or your delivery truck size. We see the Rivians that travel around with Amazon, here in town a lot, and I've seen that those are very similar in size to that.
The most exciting thing they have a relationship with Winnebago, and I've put an order in with Dakota and Geo saying, if you can make a Winnebago RV 45-footer that's all electric and just pimp it out, make it like, first of all, I'm going to get that. I want the first one. Second of all, I'm going to call up Popular Mechanics. It's going to be on the front page of that thing, a 200-mile range, and you can charge at any RV place because they all have 220 power right there.
Right.
You plug in, you power up, and the next day you're ready to go for another 200 miles. That's what I really think is the most exciting thing that these guys are capable of. It's not out yet, but I know it's being worked on. And so I really pick XOS as being one of the up-and-coming electric vehicle companies that are going to be good. And the stock market has not been kind to them yet because I don't think a lot of people know exactly what they're doing and how good they're doing it.
So having said that, we're going to have to show you, and I realize we hadn't done that. One of our engineers has been working on a recreational vehicle built on a Tesla Model S platform. He found a collision damaged car that actually had the roof crushed. Was able to purchase it, stripped off everything off the top, and it is a tiny home. It's got a washer, a dryer, a bathroom, a shower, a cook stove, just anything that you would need. We'll have to show that to you after the podcast.
I've seen brief videos of it, yeah.
Okay.
But it looks like Leonardo da Vinci made it. I mean, it's
artwork.
Very
the craftsmanship within it is mind-boggling. It really is gorgeous.
It is. So I wonder, the EV1 crushing, of course, took place ironically within the same square mile area that these Solos are being crushed. The response from the owners to this EV1 vehicle retrieval was it made history. There was actually a movie made about this. They were all adamantly trying to preserve the vehicle. Look, we'll buy it from you. They were all being leased by GM Leasing at the time, so they did not own the vehicle. What kind of responses did you run into in general from the owners as you guys were buying back the G3 Solos?
Yeah, it was pretty much the same thing where some people had run them, and there's a level of concern when somebody calls you up and says, we're recalling them, instead of saying it's a voluntary recall. Are you being forced to do that or whatever, right? So, and again, this was the management trying to get these tariff monies back.
To be perfectly clear there, this was a phase where you were not in control of the company to the extent that you were in the early stages.
I was not on
correct?
the executive. Yeah, I was on the board of directors.
Okay.
Going, we can fix this. We can fix this. I know it can be fixed, but you have executives chasing the dollars, not the jobs. right? And again, we go back to Mr. Zwo's attitude versus like, let's get some dollars in there. So many people said, get lost. I'm keeping my car. This thing is awesome, right?
Right.
And they did it. I'm one of those people, so I still have my several solos as well. But many people went, "Oh, I'm a little concerned. Okay, let's do that. And if there's a problem, I'll get a newer one, right?" And they did that, and we see that on the Facebook solo owners page where they're going, what was I thinking? And some people literally cried when they gave away their car, and they're not much happier yet. So that was the pushback. I have to say it was a mistake. You can see how it happened again with the tariff. So it was a kind of a coming together of different circumstances that was very unfortunate at that point in time. Totally avoidable. Like the EV1. Those EV1s could still be on the road. They could be in your shop today being repowered.
service.
For sure they could be, right? GM could have been Tesla, but Tesla came in, I guess the term is, ate their lunch,
Yep.
right? How many Tesla recalls have there been? They call them recalls. You come in, look, you change the trunk latch, you download some stuff, you keep things going. The Cybertruck had almost the exact same issue that the Solo had, where it would cut out at certain points in time. Just download some software, fix up, and these Cybertrucks are out there. And they are awesome, addressing the market of people who want a Ram pickup or something remarkable. 800-volt system, 48-volt low. Come on, guys. That's just an incredible piece of machinery, right? Yeah, you're going to have issues. If somebody builds a car or anything and expects there not to be some glitches that have to be addressed, unrealistic. So,
Totally
yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, you just fix it and keep going. If man made it, man can fix it.
Now, we've talked about a little bit, you've talked about your new Solos, the GTs, are going to be manufactured over in Europe and in Spain. Why? Why Spain? Why not somewhere else in the world?
Have you been to Barcelona? It's gorgeous.
Right?
Okay,
Sorry,
well, beyond the obvious then,
The
okay,
food?
yes.
Sangria every day starting at 2 p.m.? No.
Yes.
Barcelona is a big manufacturing hub, besides being a gorgeous and very historic place. And I've been involved with Formula E racing for a number of years, sponsoring cars and working with drivers. And one of my friends at one of the teams said, our team management took over a Nissan electric vehicle facility in Barcelona, 2 of them. Each of them is 500,000 square feet with the Spanish government. And they would love to build the Solos over there. Why don't you look into that? So it was a year ago that I flew a couple of Solos over there. I met with these guys, wonderful guys. And not only were they making Nissan electric vans over there, they also are building some of the most advanced electric race vehicles, road vehicles, off-road vehicles, and Hispana-Suiza, which is a very historic brand from Switzerland and Spain, going back 100 years. Now they're doing these vehicles that are electric hypercars, not even a supercar, a hypercar. There's one of them in the United States. And I asked, where is it? It says Las Vegas. It gets around quite a bit. It's a breathtaking vehicle. So the idea of building the Solo is they're so capable of doing that, not just with the facilities of manufacturing, but with technology, and to work with you, about like what else we can do with the Solo in the years to come. That's what really gets me excited. Their connections within the automotive industry, not just in North America, but in Europe. We have passed European homologation, so the Solos will be available in Europe, EU, and in the UK. And I know there's a lot of people in the UK who saw us at the Festival of Speed at Goodwood a couple of years ago who really wanted Solos. The roads are half the size of American roads over there. Parking is non-existent, so having a Solo is brilliant over there. So that all happened really quickly, really easily, really smoothly, and really cost-effectively. So you have to do that. The import from Europe into Canada and United States and other places from Spain is really easy. It's not as contentious as China is right now.
Oh, sure,
So,
certainly.
Again, I want to be in the business area, the art of saving the environment and things like that, and avoiding politics, but politics does enter into it. So Europe is considered more friendly business-wise than China is right at this point in time, which is unfortunate. Hopefully it's just a temporary thing, but right now that's the right thing to do.
So we're talking about now the fourth generation solo vehicle being built in Spain. Will the production of that vehicle move into the U.S. at some point in time, or at this point do you foresee Spain as being the hub for that creation of that vehicle?
Yeah, right now it would be based out of there, and we're talking about somewhere in the area of between 5,000 and 15,000 per year. But once we've established that and set the template, yeah, we can replicate that in the United States. We can replicate that in Singapore. We can replicate that in India or any other place that we want to avoid shipping costs and the shipping pollution, which makes a lot of sense. We could replicate in Germany. I'm counting on you and finding a nice little village somewhere in Germany or Austria that we could do this.
It would have to be in Bavaria, of course.
Of course. No sangria, but they've got other beverages down there.
They have other very good beverages down there, yes.
So yeah, we're tying all this together. So yeah, it can be replicable, and we have some tools and dies from the former factory in China that are being shipped over to Barcelona for the manufacturing there. But those will evolve as well too. And as we get those streamlined, then yeah, it's my wish to do that. And you look at Tesla having factories, California, Texas, China, Germany, maybe Mexico. Yeah. Has that gone through now?
We don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. I heard that, and then I heard no, and so you know, we'll see what happens. I'm sure there's other places. I've heard India on and off again as well too.
That'd be exciting. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they even got a tariff waiver for Teslas in return for proceeding with a factory in India. There's some deal going on there. But again, you know, I don't even know if it's politics so much as economics, you know, going back and forth with where to build these things. And as countries say, yeah, you know, we want to have future industries based here. We come from Canada, where we're building these things to close the last gas station, and the recently resigned prime minister, you know, as we're doing this, decides to build a $40 billion oil pipeline. And, you know, at that point you go, okay, you're handsome, you're young, you're doing the wrong thing here, right? I mean, it's 2025 and you're opening up an oil pipeline. That's like 1940s industries. No. Whereas in America, you know, they funded Tesla in California, the $500 million loan, which was fully repaid within 3 years, $500 million fully repaid, and it's employing tens of thousands of people with tomorrow's technology. It's worth $1.5 trillion, okay, as an enterprise. The best cars in the world are American cars, whether they're made in China. That's still an American car. And Canada, a smaller country, spends $40 billion on tripling the Trans Mountain Pipeline. It's breathtakingly dumb. Right. And now they've decided to become leaders in battery technology and all that. A little bit late, right? But I'd rather late than never. So hopefully that happens. I know India's looking at that now. I mean, the genie's out of the bottle. So every country is getting on board. I remember 10 years ago going through China as we were working with Zhongshan on doing that, seeing other factories. And there wasn't one car factory that I didn't visit that didn't have a couple of Tesla Model S's in the back that had been totally ripped apart. Or as you call it, reverse engineering.
Reverse engineering, yes.
And here we are 10 years later going, okay, the biggest problem with electric cars was they were too expensive. Now the biggest problem is they're too cheap.
Yeah.
So they're blocking them. Guys, you've got the answer to global climate destruction right there. It's inexpensive and you're blocking it. That's like, you know, the pill to cure cancer is too cheap, so you're blocking it to protect your pharmaceutical industry. Come on, guys.
So we should address how Electromechanica is going to provide service for these vehicles. And I know that's one of the reasons that you're here talking to us. But what is your broader vision and long-term vision on how these vehicles are going to be serviced?
Yeah, well, the broader version is that we're going to take over Tesla and then have I'm just kidding.
You had me going there for a minute.
What? things even Elon didn't see coming.
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Anybody listening to this, please don't call him and tell him I said that. Look on the news. The remarkable thing about electric vehicles is that there's really not a lot of service to me. There's no annual spark plugs or
Right.
things like that. There's air cleaners every 4 or 5 years, tire management, things like that can be done remotely. I still have my 2019 Model 3 performance car. It hasn't seen the inside of a Tesla shop yet. My tire guys on my race team, they've replaced the tires on it. So that's happened twice because I do drive it like crazy and it has over 100,000 kilometers on it. But there's not a lot of service to do. Anything that needs to be done, like a cracked windshield or things like body parts, can be sent over. It's a relatively easy vehicle to fix. So you look at it almost more like an appliance than the traditional combustion vehicle. And you say, okay, if your fridge has something go wrong on it, you can send over the new handle or the new front door and somebody can repair it like
Sure.
that. You don't have to hire like 20 people in a service day and elevate it up and get under there and change the exhaust pipe because there's no exhaust pipe.
Well, I think what you said makes perfect sense, too. We service, of course, all of the Tesla vehicles, predominantly the Tesla Roadster. And the
The new
Stolo,
Roadster or the original one?
the new one's not out
Because
yet.
I'm waiting
Yeah.
for my new
I know,
one.
we all are, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I put my money into stock instead of the car. Now I can buy 10 of them. But
I did both, so I'm still
you?
waiting. Yeah, the founder's version with the cold boost rockets. So anything that goes 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 1 second, I need to be a part of that program.
But, the longer they wait, the more the competition begins to, copy and improve on the design. So they have to keep raising the bar. The latest one I heard is it's going to need to fly now. It can no longer just do 0 to 60 in 1 second or whatever.
You're getting me more excited.
Yeah. But what we've noticed is, and we work, of course, on a lot of the Teslas, they're far more complex than the Solo. And what we envision, and we've been doing this, we've been supplying some parts to the Solo customers. It's a fairly low-tech product in that you don't have firmware. You don't have to redeploy software in order to change a door handle, and the majority of work can be done by local, independent repair shops with some tech support from a company like us that is well-versed in the internals of the Solo vehicles.
Yeah, like a Volkswagen Beetle for the 21st century.
There you go.
And I
Yeah.
know that
Yeah.
the founders, the original designers of the car that I was working with and all that, I kept bringing them back down and say, guys, no, this is the Volkswagen Beetle for the 21st century. It's a vehicle you can drive and drive and drive and drive, fall in love with, and it's not a complex thing to do. It does everything it needs to do as simply as possible.
So I don't envision that Electromechanica is going to have to develop a global service network and service centers like Tesla did to have their vehicles serviced. I think it's a brilliant design. It's simplistic, but yet very effective. It gets the job done without all of the bells and whistles.
Yeah, we'll have the owner centers, kind of like party centers where people can show up one Saturday a month for Solo Palooza and have breakfast together and enjoy themselves. Like we're going to have breakfast here in Phoenix tomorrow for some of the Solo owners who are coming in here at 8 o'clock with Will and I to say hi and get to know each other and get some feedback from the owners as well too. But Frigidaire does not have big Frigidaire service centers for your fridge, and there's millions of fridges out there.
It's not necessary.
They
Yeah.
just do what they do. It's very simple. If those fridges all had internal combustion engines in them, they'd probably have to have service centers
For all of them.
for all of them. They'd be noisy. They'd be loud. Every fridge would cost $5,000 a year in gasoline.
Well, yeah.
But you just plug them in. Your fridge is just super reliable. That's really what all cars, electric vehicles, and the Solo should be. Just totally dependable. Start, stop, delightful.
We have a few questions and comments that I know we're a little behind on, so let's go through a few of these. True Tech has a couple of comments for us. He says 3-wheel platforms are not a bad deal, and then says maybe we could also make a different version of these 3-wheel platforms. For example, a telescopic one to become a cargo van, or he talked about putting a hitch on the back of one, having one that can have a hitch. And he even says it looks like a proper car, not a clown car.
Now, what is he alluding to there? Might this be an Aptera comparison?
You're dropping names. Oh no.
It might be.
No, and you know
never
what? I wish all the best to the Aptera guys and anybody who's got an electric car out there, an electric idea. I will not profess to know everything about everybody, and there's probably a market out there. So good luck to everybody who's doing that. But when we started off with the Solo, the idea was to make it a car that looked so good, you could imagine a movie star getting out of it and looking proper. You know, you weren't getting out of something that looked silly, right?
Sure.
So, and that's what it is. And driving these things around, you go to car shows, you actually win awards for the best looking car. You can park it right alongside a Lamborghini. People go, yeah, there's some real style here within the cars. And again, we owe it to the designers who pulled these things out originally.
We have an image here, Jesse. Speaking of customization now, tell us about this fascinating story. This is one of the Solos that I found when we were there at auction. It is now up in Canada. Is that right?
No, it's in Silicon Valley right now.
Oh, Silicon Valley. Okay.
Yeah, and it will be coming back to Vancouver soon. That's Solo number 1. This is the first one that was ever done as being the first car on the ground to drive around. And I drove the chassis before they put the body on it to make sure it was okay. And then what we did is there's a charity in Vancouver called Loving Spoonful, and we donated it to that charity. And I asked the artist Joe Average if you wouldn't mind putting his trademark bumblebees on this thing. And we'd auction it off. I think it auctioned off for like $25,000 at the auction. And I asked him, well, what will you charge? And he says, why would I charge? This is for a charity. He was such a delightful guy. And on Christmas Eve, he did pass away. He was getting frail, but just the nicest guy in the world. And if you look up online who Joe Average is, his art is iconic. He was an icon as well too, and he's one of these people who I think is going to be revered in the way, and his artwork is going to be hugely collectible as we go forward. So I'm very proud that we did this collaboration with him on this vehicle, and that's my little bit of my Joe Average collection right there.
Well, I test drive all of the Tesla Roadsters that come in for repair, and that means that I'm probably driving at least 2 different Roadsters every week. And I'm used to a lot of visibility. You know, you see people behind you with their cell phone taking pictures or alongside, or ask me to roll down the window, what is that? You know, or is that the second generation Roadster? I have to say that test driving Todd Key's car, the 3rd generation Solo, generates an equal amount of visibility and interest. You're right. It's, the cell phone pictures, all of that. I pull up to a restaurant one day and they said, oh, it looks like the spaceship has landed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Todd's car is beautiful, and he loves it. And he's on the Solo Owners Group on Facebook quite a bit. And again, tuning it up here at Gruber, I mean, that's a great move. I was driving through Vancouver last week, and I noticed one of our black Solos up along the side there. So I pulled up alongside. I took a photo from the back of it, and I posted it up on the website. And somebody said that it was an AI-generated photo. So on one hand, you're going, are you calling me a liar? But on the other hand, you're going, hold on a second. That looks so spectacular. Somebody thinks I took the time to generate this photograph by AI. Yeah, that was real. And the people in the school bus are looking back at it and going, oh my God, that's awesome, right? So again, it looks like something that Daniel Craig would drive and get out of the car and just go, yeah, that's a cool design. A good product should speak for itself. And that's exactly what the Solo does. And I know every Solo owner out there is proud to go to Coffee and Cars with their Solo, have it out there, and then answer all the questions, and getting them more into Europe now as well too. That's going to be good. We have one driving around in Barcelona that is inundated every time it stops.
Really? Yeah.
And the other one is with my good friend and designer in Turin, Italy, which ironically, that's where Intermechanica was formed originally in 1959.
Isn't that the logo on the car?
Yeah.
The City of Turin logo.
Exactly, the prancing bull. So that's actually on the Solo. So they're driving it around over there with iconic stuff. And Michele is just loving it. He shows pictures of him driving, videos, driving around, stopping, getting around, doing the Daniel Craig thing, looking around, looking at his watch and then going over there. Just loves the thing. And so the idea of seeing it driving around these iconic European cities and then going to Munich and Berlin and London and all that as we produce more of these vehicles, it fits so well in the urban environment. And we talked yesterday about New York bringing in its first congestion fee. That's the foundation, really, of the whole Solo program. When you have cities saying, okay, it's going to cost you $9 to drive into Manhattan, we know that's going up. Yeah. Within a year, that's 15. Within 2 years, it's 20. Within 3 years, it's $27.50. And that'll go up and up because you're driving a big car with one person in it. Now, a mission-specific vehicle, like a motorcycle or a one-person car like that, should be able to get in for free. And there's cities like London, Paris that also have congestion fees. And when New York starts to make billions of dollars on these congestion fees, Boston, LA, San Francisco, they're all going to go, yeah, we'll do it too, right?
Of course.
So now when you go downtown, you say, okay, I can drive, the family truckster. It's going to be like $40 to go in, or I can just get in the Solo because I'm just having a meeting. I've got my briefcase and groceries in the back and all that, and it's free. Yeah. That's a big deal. That's like 40 times 5 is $200 a week. Yeah. That's a lot of money just to enter a city environment. That's really the eye of the needle that the Solo passes through. Air conditioning, super comfortable, Bluetooth, everything that you would have in a car, but right-sized and avoiding these congestion fees. And quite frankly, there's not a city councilor or mayor out there who wouldn't look at that and say, we need more of that, bringing people in, and less of the big SUVs with one person in it.
Right. The fourth generation body style, has it changed any?
Minutely. So for Europe, again, the center headlight won't be on there. If for the American vehicles, it will be on there.
Okay.
The rear taillights for Europe, and this was the neat thing about homologation. The only thing that we had to do was a different specification of glass for Europe, and there'll be a different for America as well. And the rear taillights will be yellow in Europe instead of red. That's really all that we have to do. But the vehicle as it is will remain untouched. The first person who says, why don't we change before they finish the sentence, I will have them out the door. But in that regard, that doesn't mean we're not going to improve it. I'm going to go, okay, thank you very much. That's a great idea. And we want all the owners, as a matter of fact, we'll talk about this. Anybody with a Solo should contact us at solo.car. That's the new website, which we just opened up today, solo.car. Contact us with who you are, where your car is, and we'll send you a questionnaire about their input, owner's input, saying, here's what we'd like. We'd like a bigger sun visor. We'd like things like that, from their own particular usage, things that we can add low-hanging fruit and then longer design frame for the 2028 car, the 2029 cars that comes through. The people who drive them are really the people who should instigate the changes.
Makes sense.
I have an image to throw up here. I understand that you were with Corbin Sparrow at one point in time. Is that right?
Yeah, we brought one up in 1999. I remember a good friend of mine who has a bad habit of winning the Concours d'Elegance in Pebble Beach with his various cars, showed me this one brochure, and he said, this is kind of a cool car. So we brought one up to Canada. I had it registered on the road, and I don't know how I did it. Neither does Transport Canada, because they told me to get rid of it right away. But it was on the road. And so we tried to get things going, and they stopped making the Corbin Sparrows as well. But it was a good idea. But it was a little bit like sitting on this chair, right? You're driving like this. So it was an interesting vehicle, but an awkward vehicle, right?
Okay.
So yeah, had those. Still have a couple of them. I think I bought about 10 of them. And we kind of use them as a development platform with new batteries and things like that. But for actual mass production, what we did for the Solos, we said, okay, the best seating arrangement is more of a reclined, comfortable thing. So we use the same seating position as for the Corvette, right?
Oh, okay.
We literally took the CAD of that and said, okay, there's a seating position. Let's build the Solo around it. So I get calls every once in a while from somebody saying, hey, I'm a big guy. Can I fit into your little car? And I go, well, it's the same seating position, a little bit bigger than a Corvette. So you can go to the Corvette dealer and sit in a Corvette. And if you fit in a Corvette, you'll fit in a Solo. So two things happen. You can confirm you'll fit in a Solo there, and you also don't want to be the guy who says, I don't fit in a Corvette anymore. So yeah, that was the improvement with the Solo.
But some inspiration there, it looks like. The three-wheeler concept, the body style, a little more curved. But
yeah, and you've
very
got the Aptera, you've got the Arcimoto thing as well too, which is more of an open vehicle. Again, I wish the best to those guys. They're struggling, but you think about going to a resort in Dominican Republic or something like that. That's the perfect application for those vehicles, or Miami or Arizona when it's not freezing. It would be great to have these cars here too. It actually is colder in Phoenix today than it is in Canada.
Is that right?
That's crazy.
It is, I know.
I know the Phoenix, I left my house, it was 31 this morning. So
Yeah, it hasn't frozen in Vancouver yet. It's never dropped below 32 degrees in Vancouver yet.
Wow.
Yeah, it has in Phoenix.
It has. It was just this morning again.
Bundle up, kids.
So a few questions here. TrueTech, the ecosystem doesn't understand money. Also, he says the ability to offer many options at a reasonable price.
Yep.
That's a good design tip. YouTube, Brady says, go Solo, go. Okay.
Hi, Gerard.
Oh, you know him.
I don't know why there's not a shamrock on the back of that Go Solo Go.
Yep. And then TrueTech, like origami and the collapsible cup concept, a structure that can morph with purpose. Oil is so yesterday, he says. The way Elon markets things, he's the opposite of a commercial for a product. Good point.
Yeah, a little bit. One of our longtime listeners, Crunch to Grace Hoppers here, he says, also my son conducts performance driving clinics under the auspices of Speed Ventures at all their tracks, but primarily Button Willow. Does Solo ever envision a competition series?
That sounds good. I have actually raced at Button Willow, Formula cars. Solo may very well be a part of a competition series. You're familiar with Formula E?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a new series it was called originally Formula G, but now it's called the FG series. So it's a junior series to Formula E. Again, this is Nick Heidfeld and Dilbagh Gill. Nick Heidfeld's a very famous Formula One driver who is doing this as a step up to the Formula E series. It's the same car, but with two different chips. So you can get in at 300 horsepower, or there's a blue chip for 150 horsepower. So you can learn the car, and then when you master it and you win at that level, you can go up in the same car with twice the horsepower. So we're working on a relationship with the FG series to have the cars not necessarily on the track, but the drivers who would show up would get a car in Shanghai, China, or Saudi Arabia, or Singapore, wherever the races are being held. Maybe even here in Phoenix, and they get to drive the Solo back to the hotel, back and forth as part of the series. Zero emissions, which is the big thing for Formula E, is that they have a very low footprint. Yeah, so that's really the involvement that we will have with racing, and I'm a huge race fan.
I know that. So here's a great question from Clark Leakins on YouTube. He says, when will we see Tofino?
Oh, that's a good one. Does he have my office bugged? Yeah. So Tofino is part of the package that is being restarted, and actually in about 3 hours, I'll be picking up the first chassis as well too.
Oh, fantastic!
And getting going on that. Probably looking at an Italian build for that, which just sounds like the right thing to do. For those of you who don't know what Tofino means, it's an eco resort town on the west coast of Vancouver Island. It's definitely, Hollywood stars are there all the time. There are some of the most beautiful resorts in Tofino, but it is an eco resort town. But the car is progressing along. We have to get the Solos back out with these 15,000 a month or 15,000 a year, getting them out there. And the Tofino then will open up with that. So expect some news within the next few months on Tofino too.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
True Tech also says if you get a Pez dispenser themed battery, it could eject the battery like a cassette, or you could just go with solid state.
Yeah.
Hot swappable, almost like an electric hand tool.
Yeah. So the swappable battery thing is really an interesting concept. And you probably remember, what was that called? It was called Better Life a long time ago. Shai Agassi, who did the swappable. Do you remember him? It was an Israeli company that he had. He had Renault on board and all that, and it was like swappable. And I remember meeting this guy, and I said, hold on. You're going to organize every car company to use the same battery? That's like herding cats. It'll never happen. He says, oh, don't worry. Right? And it was within like months that went away.
Yeah.
We don't even swap batteries on our cell phones. Why would we do it on our cars?
Yeah.
The minute you have 300 miles of range, you got to go for a coffee or something like that. And I want my batteries in my car. So the only way that I see swappable batteries working is on semi-trailers. So you're going from Canada down to Mexico. You're stopping in Seattle. You're pulling off a big battery pack. You're putting on and that's a commercial application. I see that working.
Sure.
I also see that working, and we are working on this, for a Le Mans car, an electric Le Mans car, and the cassette Pez dispenser. That's exactly what it is. So you come in, instead of dropping the pack and a new pack coming in, you would literally have the packs in the pit lane, and as the car comes in, it would, the stationary pack would push out the old pack, click in the new pack, and you would keep going. You would literally not stop.
You keep moving.
You keep moving. It would just go.
Oh my goodness.
And
yes,
away
sure.
you go, right? In America, I guess you would call that loading a revolver or a rifle.
Yeah.
So just try to relate to the audience. So then you would just keep going with your electric car like that. That would be the ultimate 24-hour. And then those batteries come out, they go up onto a rack, they charge up, right? And the next thing come through, you've got like 20, probably like 6 to 7 sets that are charging up. And then, within 45 minutes, the car comes in and it does that little cassette trick again.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. And that is coming.
Crunch Grace Hopper also asks from YouTube, will Solos someday have a robo-taxi enabling unsupervised full self-driving like capabilities?
Oh my God, another person has bugged my office. Yes. Yeah. And the only difference between Cybercab, I guess it is, and Solo is it will be one person being picked up, and the room in the back is a little bit bigger than you would have for your overhead luggage. So that's exactly what it is. But yeah, that there will be something coming out about that within the next year, and it is real. It is happening. And we'll have confirmation of that within a year. You guys might actually be there for that as well, too. That's one of the exciting things that we have in the background that's being developed. And it is not just for North America, but it'll be for Europe as well, too.
Fascinating.
Yeah, autonomous vehicle, one-person car coming in, nobody's in it, in you go.
Makes perfect sense.
Totally makes sense.
It makes perfect sense for picking up people and also for delivering packages. Right? So you have a package delivery service. What's the most expensive thing in that delivery vehicle?
The driver.
Exactly. Right. So if you have a vehicle sitting in front of your pharmacy or your restaurant, there's nobody in it. And then you get an order on there it is. You put the 3 orders in it. And the vehicle drives away. Your order is outside. You go, you pick it up. Next thing, bum, bum. That's really where it's all about. And so that is something that will be announced shortly.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Interesting. Now the EV market, ever since from the time that Solo started, that market has changed a lot. It's evolved a lot. You're talking about efficiency. For example, Lucid has recently announced they've achieved 5 miles per kilowatt. How do you see the 4th generation Solo positioning itself in today's EV landscape?
Yeah, the efficiency goes way above that because you're pushing around 1,200 pounds instead of what, 5,400 pounds in the Lucid.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about 3 tons, right?
Yeah.
So if you're driving that by yourself, the math just sort of comes
Sure.
along with the efficiency on that. So the efficiency is there. The footprint is efficient as well too. You know,
Okay.
if you have 100 sedans, I don't want to like call out Lucid as being a huge car, and those are gorgeous cars as well too.
Sure.
But the Solo, 100 Solos fits into a quarter of the footprint of 100 sedans like that. So that part is efficient. The evolution of all the batteries, and I love that the one person was talking about solid state batteries. That's going to be coming as well too. And you'll have a car. I don't think there's any need to have a car do 1,000 miles or anything like that, because who's going to sit in their car for 1,000 miles? That's just kooky. But lowering the cost of the batteries, whatever technology you use, the solid state batteries in interesting applications, like we're working on an electric aircraft as well too. That is using lithium iron phosphate batteries. So we have an hour endurance, and then it has to come down, recharge within 45 minutes, and go. Great for schools as well too. It's a 2+2 aircraft.
Okay.
Diamond DA40E. So which I'm not flying the electric version. I'm still flying the combustion version with a Continental until the electric one is available. But that's an application where you could put a lightweight solid state battery and get 3 hours of endurance. That's fantastic. You don't need that in a car, but in an aircraft, that would be a great application. But we will evolve with the various systems that are developed for electric vehicles. And there are billions of dollars being spent now on developing software, hardware, et cetera, for electric cars, because gas is dead.
Sure. I think that makes a lot of sense. And then on pricing for the Solo, of course, it looks like it's going to, because of its small footprint, size, efficiency, you're going to be able to sit near the bottom of the EV market, at least here in the U.S. as far as pricing goes.
Yeah, the price that we're looking at is $18,000 US. But of course, anybody who listens to this podcast will say that they're friends of Gruber, and they'll get the family and friends discount.
There you go.
Yeah, see, there you go. So anybody watching this, you're making money today. That's
you go.
awesome. And we will do that too, because it's about a movement. It's about saying, hey, this actually works better for my business, for myself, as we're commuting along. You know, nobody walks along the sidewalk with a desktop computer in their arms. They have an iPhone, right?
Yep.
And one of my favorite marketing tools is asking people, what is your primary computer? And a lot of people will say, oh, I've got a desktop and blah, blah, blah. I go, no, I didn't say, what's your big computer? I said, what's your primary computer? And really, 95 to 99% of all your work is done on your smartphone. And it's a case of the smartphone coming out, the iPhone 1 coming out, and people developing apps for it, and new ways of using it and carrying on. And that's why the input from our current owners back to us is so important, saying, oh, I use mine for delivering this, or I do this, I do that for it. And then adapting the product for the applications. The Solo is as important as how they've adapted with the cameras and the different things on the iPhone to lend itself better towards the apps that you're doing.
I love how the feedback is becoming such an important part of the next design cycle.
And Solo owners are very, very gregarious with their feedback, very sincere, very honest with their feedback, and very effective with their feedback too, right? Like, you know, size, height, ingress, egress, lighting, different things like that. Because you're in there all by yourself. You got time to think as you're going along. You don't have a bunch of kids screaming in the back seat.
That is true.
Another Solo benefit. Kids, I'd love to take you somewhere, but there's only room for me.
There's only room for one. Yes.
So, Jerry, finally, a EV startup. You've done this before. There's a certain path that needs to be followed in order to secure the financial strength of any kind of a startup like this. Talk to us about the financial plans, the strategies, and the sources during this relaunch of this product in Spain.
Yeah, well, it's more of an evolution. Like going from Canada to China was a much bigger step.
Yeah.
Even opening up the building that we had here at Mesa was a bigger step. in Spain, and like we discussed yesterday, we're all going to go over there, where you have a group of highly experienced EV manufacturers who've been building electric vehicles for the last 6-7 years, big cars, you know, and shipping them all around the world, down to Australia, from Spain, you know, North America, Japan, and all that. People who really know what they're doing and can say, well, that's not right. Let's just change that. It'll be less expensive and better. It's like showing up after you've been camping for a number of years, showing up at the Four Seasons and they've got everything set up for you, right?
Right.
That's really what it is. And to evolve into that space, as I was saying to Will when we left here yesterday, having the people like Joan, the CEO at QEV, and his amazing team of developers and builders over there, you guys and the input that we're getting from that, the amount of expertise that we have, the net beneficiary of this will be the people getting the Solo GTs and the Solos that we have out there. That product is going to be spectacular. It already is spectacular, but the evolution of this is going to mirror the evolution of the iPhones as it comes out with the various products that come out. I mean, it's I won't say it's easy, but comparing to how we started off in Vancouver with the first products, saying, okay, the Sparrow was really difficult to drive and wobbly and all that. Now we've completely changed it. The evolutions now make a big difference, but they're a lot easier to accomplish than that big revolutionary change.
Gotcha. Well, so anybody interested now going forward can go to your website. It's
Solo.car.
.com.
Yeah, that
okay?
was my idea. No, not .com.
.car.
Solo.car.
Oh, just .car.
Yeah.
So you're
Okay.
using another one of the new
Domains.
domain extensions.
You
that
go to
are coming out.
solo.com, and I think what you get is paper cups or something.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Yeah, but at solo.car, it makes a lot of sense there. And we will be opening things up to people interested in the new Solo GT. We'll have a newsletter coming out. We're just talking about doing not a Gruber podcast. We don't have that kind of money, but we will have a Solo update that'll come out monthly as well too, with little insights to the Solo fan club about things like our trip here.
We've got
Wonderful.
the site up. Thank you, Jesse.
There's the site, yeah.
There you go.
And we've got a few more comments here. True Tech for racing concepts, pit stop speed re-energizing, or the track is wireless charger, Maglev Racing. All right. TikTok, Panopticon.
I don't think Maglev will ever gain traction.
No?
See what I did there?
I did.
Play on
do.
words, yeah.
I do.
Panopticon from TikTok says, is there a plan to have a shop in or near Los Angeles?
Absolutely. Yeah. Los Angeles and Silicon Valley are my two favorite. Well, there's actually three of them. Phoenix as well, too. So this area is great for the Solos, Los Angeles and the Bay Area. That's really where I believe the thought leaders are. I mean, everybody loves them. And we love all the people that have our cars in Florida, New York, and that sort of a thing. But that area, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Instagram, EV Smoke ATX says, good day here from Austin, Texas. Please check out our one-of-one drag racing Tesla Plaid out here. They're probably, beating everybody on the track there.
Oh,
with
they
that
I'm
car.
sure they are.
customized it? Yeah. So
Yes.
one of the things that I've done as well, too, and I think you've seen the pictures, is in my
Model
spare
3.
time, what I like to do is I like to take Model 3s and change them into SCCA race cars. And every time I hit Laguna Seca, I set a new track record. So I've got a drawer full of certificates from the lovely people at the San Francisco region. And during practice, we just did this in November with the new car for 2025. People coming into the garage going, oh, I thought your car stopped working because it looks like a stock car, right? Because we've completely changed the body to fiberglass because we couldn't hear anything. We thought you were coasting down the hill and then you just took off. So we figured there was something weird going on. So there's a lot of interest from not just the fans, but also from the other race competitors who are driving the Camaros and the BMWs and Corvettes, not being able to keep up with it. So they're coming over going, what are you doing here? Yeah, it's the newest and most exciting area of motorsports is the EV racing.
Well, Jerry, it's always a pleasure having you as a guest. Thank you so much for coming out. And
pleasure.
for those of you interested, you have a website now that you can go to, solo.car. And we appreciate everything that you've done. And for
I
Yeah,
can't wait
thank
for
you
the
very
next
much.
time. And I think maybe what we should do is Barcelona, right? We'll get the shades out again. We'll have the
There we go.
sangria. And we'll broadcast live from the W Hotel in Barcelona. It just sounds good.
Now that sounds like a plan.
yeah. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week. I'm Pete Gruber,
I'm
Mark
Mark
Schaffner,
Schaffner.
and Jerry Kroll.
Take
Thank
care.
you.
Thank you.